Hey y'all, it's your girl Barbie J here. Welcome to my channel, June BLC. What's up, everybody? It's your girl Barbie J here with the recap and review of Tyler Perry's comedy drama, Sisters, Season 8, Episode 17. Call Me by His Name. What kind of sick mess is that? I will not call you by his name. Hallelujah. Anywho, before we get started, if you're new here or returning and have not subscribed to this channel as of yet, please take a moment right now, hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell and select all. It'll let you know every time I upload any new content to this channel. Then I ask that you hit that like button, which is the thumbs up button, write a comment and join the conversation. Then share, because what? Sharing is caring, y'all. Y'all gonna help a sister's channel grow in 2025. Come on, help a sister out. Anyhow, Gary wakes up. He's still attached to the bed restraint. He's yelling for help. Hudson comes in looking like some evil monster, if you ask me. And Gary's trying to get loose. And he said he had to restrain him because he was so agitated when Agent Watt came in there. So he's like, get me loose. Where's Andy? He said, you need to get Andrea Barnes out of your mind because she's poisoned. Then he starts remembering that he knows Hudson. And he said, you work for me. And Hudson said, yes, and I'm your friend. And he said, unlike Andy, I won't betray you. So he left him tied to the bed. And Gary was pissed and screamed, ah! I guess in being frustrated with how Hudson was treating him. But later on in the episode, a nurse comes in there to check on Gary. And Gary's like, he starts to like flirting type stuff with her. And somehow, I forgot how they got onto the conversation, but he offered to pay her student loans because she said something like how she works this shift and she does this while going to school because the student loans are so high. So he offered to pay him. He said if she would help him. And she's like, well, what do you need done? And so Gary got her to grab his personal belongings and everything and get him all his stuff, wallet and everything, so he could get out of the hospital and sneak out. And she said, are you really going to pay my student loans? He said, as soon as I get situated, I'm going to do it. And she said, okay, thank you. And she left. And he said to himself, I still got it. I said, so he's remembering how he is. But I think, I can't remember, but I feel like it was like when Gary came to her house before and he made his way to her house, she said, Gary gonna be Gary, whether he got a good memory or not. I remember her saying something like that, but I can't remember where it was. But anyway, he gets his cell phone and he's like, Hayden, I'll call him. He's my friend. Yeah, he's my friend. So now we have this scene that I really enjoyed with Maurice and Paige. They are at their counters at Brookhaven Trust Bank and they are finally not arguing or fighting with each other. Hallelujah. And what happens is this homophobic customer comes in. She's rude and she's mad because Maurice won't let her use the penny machine. He said is reserved for customers. So he gives her those little wrappers from back in the day where you put the pennies in yourself. And she didn't want to do it. She wanted him to do it. And because he said he couldn't do it, she started going off, calling him girls, you know, you sassy girls, you're kind, and you LGBTQ people, this and that. And we allowed you to get married. Now you're shoving it in our face. And she just started going off. And Paige was looking like, oh, this is not cool at all. And Maurice was about to go off, and Paige decided she was going to take over for him. And she told the lady, I can help you over here. Just give me your ID and your bank card. The lady was saying she didn't have it. And she started being rude again. And Paige, she said, you know what? I'll just open up an account, the lady said. And Paige said, ma'am, I don't think that'll be possible. She's like, and why not? She said, because Brookhaven Bank and Trust does not do business with homophobes. She was like, what? She said, so you could take your pennies and your hate to another bank. And Maurice was looking at her like shocked that she defended him or took up for him. And so the lady leaves and we find out that Paige's brother is gay and that Paige was the president of her gay straight alliance. So now Maurice is up there trying to flirt and get her brother's phone number. She's like, please, Maurice. Then Sabrina comes in and she notices that they're giggling and getting along. And she's like, what's going on here? And he said, oh, Paige is starting to grow on me. And Paige is happy that he called her by her first name. her correct first name. And Sabrina said, look, if it's going to be peaceful in here with that, I'm fine with it. So she goes into her office and gets a call from Pam, who's checking on the business plan. Sabrina admits that she hasn't even started it, and Pam reminds her that Miss Maria is not one to mess with. Then she tells Sabrina that she sounds sad, and Sabrina's like, yeah. And she said, well, I may not be able to talk to you about it, but I'm a good listener. So Sabrina decided to start telling Pam everything about her egg journey. And I'm sorry, I keep laughing because Pam wasn't hardly listening. And she even told Sabrina how hard it was to do her job and listen to something she's not interested in. I thought that was so funny. And Sabrina was like, well, you did kind of help me, just getting it off my chest and saying it helped. And she said, okay, girl, but just let's not forget about that business plan. Have it to me by tomorrow. And she hung up. I said, oh God, Pam's so rude. So now we see Jordan and Rich. They're at the juice bar and they're discussing Sabrina and Damani and how Rich had behaved, and he didn't even give her a chance to explain. And Rich is not taking any of Sabrina's calls. And I'm so done with Sabrina, always calling and like she chasing after him. Like he's the prize. No, you're the prize, Sabrina. Stop chasing this fool. He didn't even give you enough respect to explain stuff. He jumped to conclusions and assumed things, and you're sitting there trying to reach out to him when he said, he damn near cursed at her. So Sabrina was getting on my nerves with that. But then, Rich decided that he's going to call, Sabrina, but he said only if Jordan calls Andy first or something like that. So they discussed Jordan's issue with Andy for a little bit, and then Jordan calls her and he got her on speaker while Rich is hearing everything. I thought that was so immature. You're supposed to be a mature man in your 30s, and you got your homeboy listening to you talking to this woman on the phone at a juice bar. It sounds so ridiculous. But Andy was saying how she's in the middle of something because she was calling the different partners and talking to them and trying to find a way to get back in that office because y'all know what Miss Marie told her last week. She would take her business somewhere else. So anyway, they end up making a date. She finally talked to him. They made a date for that day to go to Billy Jake's. But y'all know who's sitting at Billy Jake's, right? Penelope and Robin. They're sitting there at Billy Jake's, and she wants to know what happened between him and Andy, which is none of her business. And he said that at first, but then he said, if you must know, Gary is what happened. And he told a little bit. And I was just like, really? And Penelope was jealous because she's like, oh, I could see that Andy is still in your heart. And he said, look, I didn't invite you here to be going through my personal life. We're here to talk about your case. And if you don't take this serious and get this straight, you could be back in jail or something like that, he said to her. But he basically went there with her because she started blaming Andy for certain things. And Robin was telling her that she is absolutely incorrect about what she's saying about Andy. He could not believe it. And he was catching her off guard with the things she was saying. The attorney in him was catching her saying, but you just said this and now you're saying that. And she's like, well, I don't really know. But then if you don't really know, how you blaming Andy? He said, didn't Andy warn you ahead of time? But she didn't want to take ownership of that. And I was like, I'm about sick of Penelope, y'all. Really am. So now we have this scene with Hayden and Tamara, and they making out a little bit, and then he said he wanted to do something different. And she's like, sure, baby, what? And he's like, I want you to call me by another name. She says, sure, babe, what name? He said, Gary. She's like, why would I call you by his name? You are sick. You're really sick. And he said, I can't help it. He said, you seem to like him. Every time I look at you, I can see him on top of you and all of this stuff. And she's like, look, I apologize for that. And I said, I'm sorry. If we can't deal with this, we might as well end this because I don't know what's going on. I mean, they was getting into it. And then it got to the point where he's blaming her for sleeping with his friend, but he's not blaming Gary. Or not even that. He's not talking about how he slept several times with Miss Marie Ellis. Come on now. He was doing the same thing. And so he said he's tired of being a supporting player in this and all of this stuff. And she said, is that why you wanted to kill him? And I said, uh-oh. They started going there with it. So that's so funny that they said that because this is the whole thing that Fatima and Zach were talking about when she got home from the penthouse. He had asked her what happened at the penthouse, and she told him everybody who was there and everything. And he was like, really? And Fatima said at first she wasn't open to it, but then after a while she said she feels good now that she's come back and thought about the things that Miss Marie had said to them, the uplifting and positive stuff. So then they started talking about Agent Watt. and how Zach wants to give him the footage of Tamara sleeping with Gary. And then he said that they will go to number one on the suspect list and knock them down a few pegs on it. You know what I mean? But Fatima is not feeling that way about that footage, you know. She said something about there's no honor among thieves. And she also called them bottom feeders, Hayden and Tamara. But she's trying to tell them she wants them to get into a fight with each other and start telling on each other. So she and Zach are going to put something into play to see if they could get the two of them to drop dime on one another. So Zach said, let me go get the Batmobile. He's so silly. So now Karen gets home and Miss Lisa lays into her for going out and stuff. She's really pissed at her. And Karen explained the situation. It wasn't Andy's fault. She made the decision, blah, blah, blah. And the mother was like, you know what? I don't care, but I'm going to have to get you a babysitter since you don't want to listen to the doctor's orders or anything. She said, Mama, you got me a babysitter? She said, yeah, I got you a babysitter. Maybe you'll listen to the babysitter. I need somebody to watch you while I'm away. She said, I think I'm going to go back to the salon for some extra supervision. She said, that'd be a good idea because who knows what's going on with Pam there. She said, more than you know. And she said, Mama, you said something? She said, no, baby, no. I said, oh, Lord. So before Miss Lisa leaves, there's a knock at the door. She said, oh, that must be your babysitter. She said, Mama, really? And who's the babysitter? But Aaron. Aaron is the babysitter. And you know Karen don't have a problem with it at all. But her mama don't know how Karen is feeling about him. So anyway, Miss Lisa leaves and Aaron asked her she mind that he's going to stay. And she said she'd like him to stay, you know. And then he asked her was she's hungry. And she said she's not hungry right now. But what she wanted to do is kiss him. And that's what she did. And Aaron wants to know where that action is coming from. And she's like, I wasn't supposed to do that. She said, I thought I felt you reciprocating. And he's like, yeah, I understand that. He said, but I've always been here for you. And you know I care about you and those babies. He said, but I was just wondering what was happening. He said, do you only want to get back with me because Zach is building a life with someone else? And it went off like that. Like, uh-oh, I can't wait to hear what she's going to give as an explanation for that. And lastly, we have the scene with Danny at the airport, and she walks over to her desk or station and sees Tony there. And she's like, why are you here? It's not a good idea since we're under investigation. And he's like, I'm sitting there going, he's such a freaking idiot. You know, and a terrible manager. If it took Danny to tell him to use some common sense here in this situation. And he's like, well, that's why I need to talk to you. And she points out to him there's prying eyes listening everywhere. And so they make plans to meet after work at her house. And so he goes to his office. Then Leonard comes right over and starts messing with her. You know, when I heard that somebody filed a grievance against you, and then he admits it was him and that he had the right to because it's not fair. He earned that position in the leadership program on his merit, and she earned it on her back. And I said, oh, no, he didn't. And Danny said, you keep talking to me like that, and you're going to be on your back. I said, uh-oh, don't mess with no Daniela. I'm telling you. He was like way out of line. And they started arguing back and forth. And then Danny took his cup of coffee that he had and hit it up so it spilled all over him. And it was all over his hair, his face, his shirt. And he started yelling and complaining that she assaulted him. You're all my witnesses. And everybody's just staring. And all of a sudden, Tony comes running over, as well as the HR lady, asking what's going on. And Leonard said, I'll tell you what's going on. His girlfriend attacked me. And Danny's standing there looking all kind of guilty as the HR lady is looking at her. And so the episode ends with this scene with Penelope and Rob. And Lord Jesus, I can't stand Penelope at this point. She's at Billy Jake's, y'all know, and she sees something on his face, like a eyelash or something, and she's like, let me get it. And she gets it and say, blow it and make a wish. And he plays along and blows it and makes a wish, whatever. All of a sudden, who comes in but Andy and Jordan? And they're talking, and Andy happened to turn and see them. Penelope turned and saw Andy, and she decides she's going to reach over and touch Robin's face and rub it and everything. And Andy's looking at her, and Jordan's like, oh, I didn't know they was going to be here. I swear I didn't know. He said, you want to go over and say hello? I mean, what do you want to do? And Andy is like, what? And Penelope keeps looking at her and purposely doing these things to get under Andy's skin. So I don't know. I think Andy should go over there and say something. What do y'all think? Put it down in the comment section, okay? But I'm surprised Robin is allowing Penelope to touch him like that and everything. And I said, Penelope's just jealous because all the men love Andy. You know how all the ladies love cool LJ, LL Cool J? All the men love cool, sexy Andy. And it's just what it is. Sorry, Penelope. So y'all put it down in the comment section what y'all think about this episode. And I will see you all in the next video. Please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Help our sisters channel grow. Peace.